You're very welcome to the Firm and Fast Golf Podcast. I'm your host, Shane Derby. In this episode, I'm joined by the E in M&E, none other than Martin Ebert himself. We recently met up at Royal Portrush Golf Club, where Graham Darcy and Dar Golf have been lovingly working on the Valley course since November 2023, creating additional interest, strategy, and a few new holes to boot. The revisions will bolster the golf offering on the North Coast by utilising some heretofore unused parts of this 400-acre parcel of Linksland on the County Antrim's Causeway coast. Given my recent trip to the west of Ireland, I was keen to get Martin's input on the changes that M&E have implemented at Enniscrone Golf Club over winter 23-24 and explore a little more of the master plan they have prepared on behalf of the members at County Sligo Golf Club. We also linger briefly on the firm's imminent projects at New South Wales Golf Club in Sydney and Noordwijk Golf Club in the Netherlands. Many thanks to Martin for his time. We do hope you enjoy the show.
Very well, yeah. We just had a lovely walk round the Valley course, so it's always good to have a podcast like this, but after seeing something on the ground. So yeah, really well, thank you.
Well, listen, as I was saying to you last night, I'm having a wild time of late. Last week was golf and dinner with Angela Moser at St Patrick's, and this week I'm out for dinner, a course walk up the Valley with your good self, and recording a podcast as well. Firstly, many thanks for agreeing to this chat. I understand some of our mutual acquaintances may have put in a good word or two with you on my behalf.
Well, maybe it's a question that we've both got some questionable friends. I don't know, but no, everyone's thought very highly, and delighted to be with you. And it was good to know that we got some common friends out there in the golfing world. So it's a small place, isn't it? But,
it is a small place, yeah. It is a small place.
Some great characters that I'm sure we've both met over the years.
Absolutely. Before we get into our chat, which will hopefully cover a bit of Irish golf, a bit of Dutch golf, and a bit of Australian golf, you might be kind enough to offer some commentary on the following quotation from Charles Hugh Ellison. Building golf holes seem to have a strange fascination for many golfers. While they would not think of taking over the job of the physician or the lawyer, yet they would not hesitate to take over the duties of a golf course architect, with the full confidence in their ability to build quite the finest course that has ever been conceived.
Yeah, no, they come up with some great quotations, didn't they? Those the great old architects of the golden age. But I'm interested by that one because when you think about it, his great mentor Harry Colt was a lawyer. Dr. Alistair MacKenzie was a physician. So some of the great golf course architects came from those trades. But having said that, I guess what he's referring to is that all of us have to deal with committees. Very successful people in their own rights normally sit on those committees, and they have strong feelings. But I don't. I want to hear those strong feelings. I want to really understand. People who know their own golf course. I want to hear their ideas. I think our skills, our expertise, is judging how good those ideas are. We've benefited from them on many occasions, on many projects, but always at a certain point. We do like to be left to come up with the final proposals, but they may have been inspired by those physicians and those lawyers and those business leaders in industry. So it's an interesting quotation, and I can imagine it might have been born with some frustration. But we live in this world where we have to work with the committees, and that's a fact of life in most golf clubs. And that's the way we've got to work, and I enjoy it as well. I enjoy getting that input from various people.
And I guess you can't all be Tom Simpson with your cutting remarks.
Exactly. No, I'm not the Tom Simpson character, as great a guy as he was. But no, we'll try and please people. But at the end of the day, we're not going to do things just for the sake of it. We do what we believe is right for the golf course in question, whether it's a new course, whether it's an existing course.
Perfect. As we're sitting here in the Anthony Babington room at the Royal Portrush Golf Club, I've made an executive decision to change up the batting order from what I told you and jump straight into your ongoing involvement on the links at Royal Portrush. I think M&E have had an ongoing involvement with Royal Portrush for approaching 10 years. Is that right?
Well, no, longer than that, really. I suppose I was advising here when Tom and I were both working for Donald Steele. So I can't remember when that was, but that was well into the 1990s, I think. We set up MacKenzie Ebert in 2005, and I'm pretty certain there's been projects being looked at, since that moment as well. So I remember the short game project, just looking across here from the Sir Anthony Babington room, looking across at the short game area, which was one of the first bits of input that I made. The old greenkeeper sheds were there. They've now moved twice, but it just shows how long I've been advising here that that has happened. But that was a great project. We had the back tee project on the Dunluce course. Obviously, the changes for 2019 Open, which major changes to the Dunluce, but had the knock-on effect on the Valley, and now this project as well.
Amazing. So forgive me my bad mathematical abilities. Just wondering, Bernard Darwin once referred to the Dunluce course as a monument more enduring than brass. Little siblings from a second course perspective often hide in plain sight. How would you assess the course of the Valley was, and contrast that with what you hope the revised and re-energised 2024 version will be?
No, that's a great quote of the greatest golf writer, Mr. Darwin. And I think he was referring to Harry Colt, wasn't he? That he built a monument more enduring than brass, to himself, I guess, with what he created here with the Dunluce. The Dunluce, everyone just raves about it quite understandably, quite rightly. The quality of the layout, the views that you get from so many places, the detail of green shapes, green surround shapes. The undulations of a links course, there's links come in so many different shapes and sizes, but this could be perfection in many ways when you think of just how, looking down that first hole now from here and the big climb up to it. Now, uphill holes aren't normally that good. I think the first hole here is one of the very best holes on the course. There's so much interest, so much variety. Then we turn to the Valley. As you say, it's sort of definitely regarded as the younger sort of sibling of the two. But I think in many ways it occupies land which you could say is almost stronger than the land that the Dunluce sits on. It's closer to the ocean. You don't see the sea quite as much, but the actual quality of the land is so good. Now, I think it suffers on occasions when people are playing the Dunluce and they come to the Calamity and they look down on the flattest section of the Valley, and they're looking down on it from such height that it's difficult to detect the movement that actually is in the ground. But I think sometimes people judge it on that glimpse that they get from there. If the people that do take the time and trouble to go and play the old course, before we made changes for the 2019 Open, after the changes we made, I think they would be, they were always delighted, I'm sure, with what they found. Very strong course. Harry Colt laid it out. I don't think he really was involved in the detail and the supervision of its construction. I think the club did that in a more piecemeal fashion. And you can see that. You can see that, the detail is probably a little bit more basic than the Dunluce has, which of course was built by, one of Colt's favoured contractors, Franks Harris Brothers. So I think it was always been a great golf course, but certainly this project, I think, will elevate it, immeasurably, really, in terms of use of that land, the combination of the holes, and we're going to end up, as a result of this project, I think we're looking at 6/7 new greens, which has given us the opportunity to not depart completely from the style of the Valley greens, but just add a little bit more movement, detail, interest for golfers who are members of Portrush, of the Ladies Club, of Rathmore, and also the visitors that we hope will enjoy it in greater numbers.
So you kicked off, I think, last November, so November 2023. The guys are still on site. What is left to do, and when do you hope to have the sign-off and completion?
Yeah, it was ideally we would have started earlier, but planning permission was required. We've had to observe conditions in relation to archaeology, which is becoming more and more of a constraint these days. Every bucket of material, every bucket of sand that's been excavated has had to be monitored by an archaeologist. So despite that, it's amazing what the contractor Dargolf, what they've produced in such a relatively short time. This is a major project. There is some serious. I mean, we were out there. You saw how much earth movement has been carried out in places. Now that's something that we don't normally. We like to minimise the earth movement that we carry out on any of these projects, but to deliver on the brief that the club had, it was essential to move that earth. Our ethos is always to make it look as natural as we possibly can, and I hope that everyone, when the finished results are there for everybody to view, that they will feel that that's been achieved. It will take it to another level. There's no doubt about it. It deals with a very practical issue of delivering again 2 loops of 9 holes, that was something that was lost when the course was changed, when the 2 holes were lost for the 2019 Open, and actually 3 were lost and 3 were replaced, and that led to a loop of 7 and a loop of 11. So now we've delivered that loop of 2 loops of 9, and in fact there's also a loop of 6, which in this day and age would give you a round of golf or a 6-hole round in just over an hour, or hopefully an hour. So I think it's delivering on all fronts, but just each hole actually of the front 9, that's been the focus. Really, I think has been strengthened. We've done something with every one of them. We've got the new holes in the land that was previously the par 3 Skerries course. That is going to deliver some incredible views through to the Skerries, through to the town of Portrush at the end of what will be the 7th hole and from the 8th tees. So, yeah, I think we're really very excited with what we're going to produce at the end of the day.
And the good news to those that perhaps played the Valley some 7 or 8 years ago, before what was the 18th hole was closed per se, is that you're reinstating the old 18, the par 3.
We are, yeah. No, that seems to be, really was sorely missed. When the changes were made for the 19 Open. So to be able to put that hole back and it to really make sense in the overall course routing is great, and I think it's going to be back to real acclaim from the members.
Well, thank you for your time this morning and showing me about it. It's exciting times for the members about Royal Portrush and Rathmore, I'm sure, and I look forward to returning as and when, probably next year, to see the fruits of your labour.
Yeah.
Maybe if we move on quickly to the just some. I know you're involved and have been consulting with Noordwijk Golf Club in Holland. Just wondering what the first 3 words you think of when you think about Dutch golf.
No, well, thanks for giving me a little bit of a heads up on this one, because you want to have time to really consider that, and so the 3 words that I'm going to choose are links, heath, and clubhouses, and I'll explain that a little bit. I mean, I guess the innocent bystander might think that the Dutch landscape is flat as a pancake, and could there be any good golf there?
Au contraire.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, people who do know their golf and have been out there to experience it, come back absolutely amazed. I mean, the great links courses of Noordwijk, Kennemer and The Hague, a second to none. I say that quite often, I guess, about various projects, but no, I mean, they are really seriously great pieces of links ground. And then, the heath, just some of those incredible heathland courses, I would rate Japan as good as any of the Surrey, Sussex heathland courses, I think.
It would make you cry. It's so good.
Oh, it's just absolutely brilliant.
And it encourages you to play good golf.
Just the topography, the combination of the heather, the pines, the design again that Harry Colt laid out across it. I really was blown away when I saw that. I thought that was just one of the best golf courses I've ever seen. And it's not the only heathland course in Holland. Obviously, we've got Eindhoven and Roosendaal and places like that. So there's a lot of great topography and great golf. And then my third word, clubhouses. I just love so many of those clubhouses. Kennemer, the old sort of thatched roof, De Dommel. What a beautiful old farmhouse clubhouse that is, and even the modern ones. Noordwijk. I even love the Noordwijk clubhouse with that that view from the top floor. So yeah, those are the 3 words that I've chosen. But I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on that one.
Now, you're asking me questions. That's not part of the deal. Listen, we'll come back to that particular thing. So I've got another question for you. I'm just wondering what your first experience of golf in the Netherlands was.
Yeah, good question. Well, I think that was a little course called the Kelpenberg up in the north part of Holland. A lot of the courses in Holland at that time, this was in the early 90s, were sort of 9 holes needing extension to another 9. And I think it was Kelpenberg was my first project there, working with Donald Steele to develop it. And it was a real watershed moment for me in my development as a designer, actually, because that was, I think, probably one of the first projects where I drew a detailed plan using contours. This is something that I guess Tom and I, we sort of taught ourselves through our careers, and now we just we believe faithfully in representing what we want to design with a very, very detailed plan. And that was the start of it, really. I mean, obviously that was a bit of flat Dutch landscape, and it was a question of not needing a survey. We would just basically grew the green surrounds and bunkers out of the very flat landscape. So, but it was my first play with contours to define what was required. So Holland means a lot to me in that respect. And then moved on to other courses like Lausvold, which is a beautiful course in the north of Holland. Efteling, which was a theme park, designed 27 holes there. That was a really fun project to try and get something that would sort of suit some of the concepts of a theme park without being too Mickey Mouse, if you forgive the expression. And the Noordwijk has been great to be making regular visits there to really hopefully just take them again into making it a good links into a seriously great links.
For those that haven't perhaps been to Holland, or more particularly to the dunes of Noordwijk, how would you characterize the site?
I think it is fascinating when you see the rawness of the dunes, the amount of open sand that exists. And even at Noordwijk, they have had a lot of growth. When you look at the dune land surrounding it, it's much more open. There's a lot more sand exposed. And it reminds me of a lot of the way our links used to be. Even the pictures down here in the hallway at Portrush, you can see how sandy those links were. And that's gradually over the years with nutrient enrichment and whatever, gradually that sort of sandy nature has been covered over with vegetation. At Noordwijk, you're seeing a lot more burnt out dunes. It's a much more fragile dune environment. So there's not many areas where you could lift established dune rough vegetation. And as a result, it gives a beautiful mosaic across the golf course. The dunes are significant, obviously, on that sort of North Sea coast. They huge exposure to strong winds. So there's some great topography there. A mixture of landscape, because pine trees were planted over a good section of the golf course many years ago, and some of the members, a lot of the members, they get attached to the trees. It happens everywhere. Now, for various reasons, but for condition, the hope is that a lot of those trees can be removed, and that will give us openings as well to produce some new holes and to really take the course again to the next level.
So unlike the links courses at Kennemer and Royal Hague, I understand that the Noordwijk property actually sits inside a special area conservation, as per the EU's Nature 2000 directive. The course was completed obviously in the early 1970s. Just wondering, do you know whether the club forgot to apply for the red lines or whether their application for same was denied on any specific grounds?
Yeah, I do remember hearing some story about that, but I'd be foolish to try and quote it because my memory would fail me. It's I think we always want to work with nature, work with the beautiful natural characteristics of a site. It's extremely sensitive and extremely the levels of protection are significant. So there are things that we would probably ordinarily do on our links courses with permission, obviously, with in sites of special scientific interest, which are not permitted out there in Holland. So there's a very sort of strict hierarchy in terms of grey dune being the most important. Here we would be clearing buckthorn because it's non-indigenous, as I understand. In Holland, they regard it as indigenous, and and you can only clear it if you're going to create grey dune. You can't clear it and then turn it into golf. So there's that really are significant restrictions. We've had to work within those. So in that respect, the fact that some of the site is covered by pine trees has given us that opening to move outside of the existing golf corridors. But it's been an incredible journey that the club have been on, and we've been with them and supporting them whenever we can. But it's a lot more restrictive than our working practices over here.
The good news is a friend of mine who's a member has told me that the club recently received one of the more important permissions required to carry out works. I believe there are a few hoops left to negotiate. However, it does seem that thanks to the assiduous engagement by you and the many stakeholders, both internally and externally, that imminent site works may be around the corner.
Yeah, no, that's everything seems to be coming to fruition, and I can't just say how impressed I've been with the patience of many people at the club, but Martin Del Fortri in particular. He really has looked at every little aspect, and the meetings that they've all had with various bodies, both regulatory and voluntary bodies, to get everybody on the same side, and just producing something that will benefit the environment and the ecology as well as the golf. That's been quite something to be monitoring as the project's progressed.
Obviously, you deal with environmental agencies in very many different countries. I'm just wondering if you could compare and contrast, if it doesn't get you into too much trouble, the interaction between Natural England and the Dutch authorities with regard to engagement for permissions.
Yeah, I've had no direct involvement with the Dutch authorities, but so clearly, even something like translocation, for instance, this is lifting big slabs of rough vegetation. That was trialled in Holland, and I think there was a directive, not for this project. It was trialled for a motorway project, I think, and I think the ruling was that that it wasn't an appropriate means of moving rough vegetation, for instance. So, whereas here you've seen again just what we've been lifting and putting back down again here. So I guess we have a more hands-on relationship with the authorities in the British Isles. Natural England, you mentioned. It's been great working on some projects where, I guess initially there might have been some, feeling amongst the ecological bodies that golf destroys rather than assists with nature. But I think as those projects have developed, and I'll name a couple of them, one at Hillside Golf Club on the Southport coast, where the creation of a dune slack on one of the holes has led Natural England to describe it as one of the best areas of natural habitat creation that they've come across. And again, at Royal Liverpool, host of the Open Championship last year, the natterjack toe population is increasing, and Natural England, I think, now bring their representatives and other people in the ecological world to look at it as a case study. So, and we've put together, in fact, a series of case studies of all of the projects that we've been involved with, of where the creation of naturalized areas, sand areas, dune slacks has really led to a significant improvement of ecological welfare.
So in terms of the Nordvik master plan that you've prepared, I know you've probably done a little bit of work in terms of practice putting green, be a practice chipping green as well over the years. Just wondering what the scope of the project is and how you perhaps went into maybe a historical analysis of what Paul de Jong, Ken Cotton and Frank Pennock initially conceived.
Yeah, no. So I guess the brief from the club, and I've been advising there for years and years, but it's been more theoretical than practical because we just haven't really been able to really settle on plans that have been approved. So, but now that all looks to be changing, and one of the aspects of the project is that the club are very aware of the ecological restrictions in terms of chemical applications to golf courses. So they really are focused on a more sustainable approach to the management of the high maintenance areas such as the greens. So there's a real desire to rebuild the greens for a number of reasons, but one of the reasons is so that they can be fescue dominated, to reduce the reliance on chemicals to control diseases and pests and what have you. So that's one of the motivations. I think they're also sort of aware that the detail of the green shaping and the green designs, could be improved. With that delivery of fescue greens, we're going to deliver much firmer surfaces, much drier surfaces. So as a result, the designs need to allow for that. There's other projects where you've converted to fescue greens, but because of the design, you've got to land the ball all the way onto the green, and it pings off, and runs over the back. With ordinary member play, where the spin rate and the control might be obviously far less than a professional golfer. So we're looking at all aspects of that detailed design, the approach shaping, the green surface design as well. And we're going to deliver, 18 greens completely rebuilt, some of them in new locations where the pine trees are, as I say, to create new holes. So that will really, I think, lift the detail of the golf course. When it comes to historical analysis, I don't think much had changed. It's a relatively new golf course. Obviously, Frank Penning was one of Donald Steele's old partners, and I think his father was Dutch, so he had a big history in Holland. While there's a little bit of a change to the course layout where we're permitted, in general, the holes are pretty much staying where they are, apart from those few occasions where we are adjusting it. Hardly any bunkers. That's again a sign of the strength of the golf course. So the natural topography means that you don't need to rely on bunkers too much. Really looking forward to improving the level of detail of green surrounds.
And I believe you'd be working closely with Richard Wing, another Englishman who's the superintendent there, who I believe has been focusing on promotion of fine leaf grasses and reduction in water usage.
Yeah, no, Richard's wonderful. Yeah, it really is good. I mean, I think every project needs a great course manager, really. So, Richard's most certainly that, and really look forward to working with him to produce what it will be a great product at the end of the day. But we need someone like that who's really driven, excited by all the proposals, who's got energy about them, and Richard's most certainly got that.
One final question, just apropos Noordwijk and maybe Dutch golf in general. Just wondering if you could compare and contrast dealing with development or links committees in the UK and Ireland versus the Netherlands. I'm just wondering if the extended tenure, which is often in evidence on club committees, with the PAN being a prime example, where the people tend to filter back onto committee and have a prolonged tenure, if you like, in terms of developing knowledge and passing it on. I'm just wondering, does that assist the process of engagement and decision making with golf clubs in Holland versus?
Yeah, continuity is really important. I think there are a number of clubs where it's a very sort of short-lived period on a committee. Could be, as Green Chairman, it might be as short as 1 year. A period on a committee for a committee member might be 3 years. But so to have a bit of commitment and continuity for a longer period is most definitely beneficial. Interesting, just the difference in how people's personalities. I've often been told in Holland, be direct. Dutch people like you to tell them exactly what they should hear, rather than sort of beating around the bush. And obviously, being a Brit who likes to try and sort of ease proposals through, that takes a bit of getting your head round. But I'll do my best to tell them exactly what they need to do, rather than beat around the bush.
Regular listeners will know that most recently I was joined by David Dunn, council member at Kenny Sligo Golf Club, where MacKenzie and Ebert have recently been engaged to revise the course at Ross's Point. So congratulations, first of all.
Thank you.
I'm keen to have a chat about the process you've undertaken so far with respect to the master plan that members recently approved. I understand actually that your first project visit also doubled as your very first visit to Ross's Point. How the hell did that happen?
Almost. No, I did make one trip because we were involved at Enniscrone many, many years ago, not so far away from Ross's Point. And so I did have one very brief visit, but it was a long time ago and memory fails me. So it pretty much, effectively was my first trip there. So Yeah, I mean, there's so many parts of the golfing world that you've got to improve your education upon. But as soon as I saw it, and the variation of character of terrain, it was obviously sold and so impressed by what County Sligo delivers. Just you've got the first and second going up to the high point. The vistas. All golfers love great views, but there's so many different views at Sligo that take the breath away. So up there on the third tee is a pretty special place. The fifth tee, not sure I've ever sort of seen such a major drop on a links course from high tee down to fairway. Then out at the far end, you've got the beautiful dunescape and the great backdrop. What's the name of the great
Ben Bulben?
Yeah, Ben Bulben. Yeah. Out there in the distance. And then you're coming back along the coast. Classically, we were just talking there on the links. How many great links started with the coastal ground with their front nines, but there we are coming back with with the back nine running along the coast. So 12. What an opportunity, what a hole it is, but an opportunity to push that green on, just to take even more advantage of its great setting. 13's a lovely short hole, interesting with the burn, just running behind it. Then 14's a seriously strong hole. 15 along the coast. 16 has its erosion issues, and we've given the club a lot of hopefully confidence that there is a solution. If there are issues there in the long term future, so all's not lost in that respect. But great variety. And certainly we look forward to not doing major work, but certainly dealing with any aspects which we think will lead to a more enjoyable experience for members and visitors.
Interesting, you mentioned erosion there. I was just reading the spring update for the members of Royal Portrush there while I was waiting for you this morning, and they put a lot of additional rock armour down underneath White Rocks. I'm just interested, with our tip of the cap to our friends in Holland, who very much engineered their coastline with the sand motor, and essentially that barrier dune system serves a number of different masters, one of which is flood protection. And I'm sort of conscious of Montrose and North Berwick and Ross's Point as 3 examples. The links courses of Ireland and the UK and indeed Europe are pretty unique. If the sea, which it would appear is starting to eat them, once they're gone, they're gone. And in an Irish context, it's very central to inbound golf tourism because we don't have the heathlands that they have in London. There always appears to be a reluctance amongst the authorities to do something in time, if that makes any sense. And it would seem prudent to look at the Dutch model and say, well, look, if they're doing it there, and admittedly it's for the wider society, I suspect, but obviously the knock-on effect is that it's beneficial to the golf courses. We got to do something, surely.
Yeah, I mean, in Holland, as you say, they're very strict along that. I think it's 100-meter zone all the way along the coastline. That any of our proposals, we had to work out that we were not, any earth movement was not removing material from that zone. Very, very strict controls over that. Over here, we've got a number of clients where this is becoming more and more of an issue. As you say, the authorities don't like the hard defences unless it's protecting properties and lives and whatever. So the attitude is very much to let nature take its course. So I know it was a huge battle for the club here to get that rock armour extended. So quite often we're having to look at sort of a managed retreat from the shoreline. Some sites, though, they're gaining sand in certain areas. You look at Rye, for instance. The lovely pictures in the clubhouse there, the incredible 7th green, and below was the beach. Now they've got a Jubilee course. They've got an entire golf course. So, and that's all been accreted as a result of the River Rother, which is defended and sand built up.
So what you're saying is what it giveth, it also taketh away.
A little bit. But I think, the predictions for sea level rise and what have you, it's only going to become more and more of an issue for many courses. So, we try and give every club, the best advice we can, and in many cases there are solutions there, if they've got the land. But no, it's certainly a more and more pressing issue as time passes.
Back to Ross's maybe for a second. I've heard you speak, or certainly mention, perhaps there might be some Gillen similarities in terms of topography.
Yeah, I think Gullen on the hill is that landscape is there are similarities certainly with those that early part of the course at Ross's Point. So yeah, I'm always fascinated by just how many different types of links there are. From the very sort of flat landscape of the old course, for instance, but what brilliant undulations throughout that. But not much of a variation in height difference, throughout the course. Then you've got Portrush with the big elevation changes. You've got Ballybunion with its huge, great dunescape, and Cairn and other places like that. Even the Trump courses at Aberdeen. I mean, it's incredible, the conical dunes, the natural conical dunes that exist there. So there's so many different types of links. Gullen and Sligo would, parts of Sligo would be similar to Gullen, and again, a very different aspect. Once again, Muirfield, what beautiful views there, but not hugely duney. Turnberry, the along the rocky coast, so some dunes, but more cliff top with some of the holes. Yes, there are dunes there, but what this coastline and what the wind has done to blow the sand over beaches, rocks, cliffs, whatever it is, it's given us a great playground as golfers, I think, to enjoy the game.
Obviously, County Sligo has a meaningful Harry Colt heritage. I think Alison would have bunkered the place after the initial routing and design. Just wondering if you can assess Colt's importance to modern golf course architecture.
Well, I think he's reputed quite rightly to be probably the leading architect of his time, and perhaps all time. I think taking it from a professional golfer pastime or task, I suppose, to route courses, and really turn it into a profession, drawing up detailed plans, and so. But his feel for what was right on a site, that the course layouts that he produced, he would always deal with significant elevation changes so elegantly, and so all of a sudden the golfer finds himself at the top of a hill, for instance, not entirely realizing how he's got there.
Playing a par 3 over broken ground, probably then.
Well, maybe, but yeah, I mean, one of the ones which I love in some ways more than other is Royal Portrush on the north coast of Spain, and incredible that he even got there, and but the course that he left them with. I'm a bit biased. My wife's from Santander, which is just across the bay, but it routes its way around that beautiful piece of terrain, and all of a sudden you're on the top, and the views you get to the Palacio de Magdalena, Santander, the Picos Mountains, the Puntal, which is a beautiful sandy strip. Fantastic. So his course routing was incredible. The detail, just you can learn so much from the shapes of his green surrounds. And I always, when these sorts of interviews are given, I always give great credit to the people that carried out the work for him. A little bit like we're so reliant on the great shapers of today. He was, I think, very reliant on the skills of site foremen and the labourers who turned out those greens. How often could he have got to Portrush? How often could he have got to Portrush? So I think when he had the right people who he'd obviously schooled, I don't know that he could have defined every feature on every green. So I think those guys really deserve almost as much credit as Harry Colt when it comes to the detail. And the same with Charles Hugh Allison. There we worked at Hirono, and he was only there for a week, but he produced an incredible layout again, left plans. They knew where the bunkers had to go, but the local people, after he'd left, they turned it into the classic that it became.
In fact, just to mention, there's a really cool article in a relatively recent McKellar Journal edition, which actually charts Allison's time in Japan and the couple of local guys that went on to build quite a few additional golf courses in the style of Allison.
Exactly. Yeah. No, and I contributed a fair amount to that article, and my theory of just how did those incredible bunkers get formed, and Allison, when he went over, he took a gentleman, an American construction foreman called George Penglaze, and I've got a hunch that that it was George Penglaze that really defined the detail of some of those bunkers. So I think it was, again, a team effort. But Allison was obviously the catalyst and he was the man they wanted. Well, I guess they wanted Colt, but he considered himself too old and sent Allison instead.
It's funny, I'm just thinking of Mackenzie's time in South America and Luther Kuntz going down there with him, and he was the one that stayed there to basically project manage and finish the golf courses. So
yeah.
I just say it's a team effort.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain, am I right in thinking that I think Mackenzie was at the Jockey Club for about 6 months, or he's in Argentina for 6 months while that was being built. So he really, when I had a visit there, it was fascinating to sort of think that when he arrived, and I think the golf courses opened a year after his arrival. So he was there. If he was there for 6 months, he was looking at every detail you'd imagine and had his eyes on absolutely everything. So we are seeing there something which he really intended, I would say. So it's fascinating to judge the results.
Which I guess makes a nice change from Royal Melbourne and a couple of the Australian golf courses.
Exactly.
Now, admittedly, the Morecambes were involved and Mr. Russell as well, but it's just funny,
Yeah.
Listen, just back to my conversation with David Dunn for a second. And one of the things we sort of got talking about was the sensibilities of UK and Irish golfers changing, perhaps an increased golfing IQ and the direction of travel, or this direction of travel, should I say, through a better understanding and access to stuff, digitization, and back to the future in terms of actually reconnecting with that strategic golf design past, if you like. I think that's probably good news for your particular profession.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was, we had the golden ages. We probably had the dark ages after the war to a certain extent. The internet has sort of advantages and disadvantages, we all know. But I think now the opportunity to study these great courses with, information, old aerial photography, old ground photography. I think, golfers are, as you say, the ones who really are passionate. They've got a lot more access to material. They've got, as a result, they can get more excited about going to see different places. The information is is available. It's out there. So plus, I have to say that a lot of the developments in recent years. I think there's some great architects out there producing some amazing new golf courses. We have some new course projects, but we're focused very much on some great heritage courses around the world, not just in the British Isles. And it's an honour and a huge responsibility to work on them. But quite often it would only take a captain, a committee, a course manager to make a change which could have been lost, could have lost a certain feature or a set of features for good, and yet. Now there's, with the information that is normally available historically on these great heritage courses, then Hirona was a great example. We can go back and really use it as not just inspiration, but trying to replicate exactly what bunkers and greens used to look like. So, and as you say, I think the golfers, I think they do appreciate that, whether they know all the work that goes into producing that. But I think there is an appreciation of great detail and something that has been taken to the next level. So let's hope we can achieve that at Ross's Point.
You've allowed me a little segue back to Australia very, very briefly. I know it's more Tom Mackenzie's project than your own, but maybe you might speak to the excitement level in Mackenzie and Ebert Towers in relation to the project at New South Wales and Botany Bay.
Yeah, no, it was great
Big Brown Lapras, should I say?
Yeah, no, it was great to get that inquiry. It was Greg, one of the past captains at New South Wales, who was a member at the Berkshire, and he got in touch and just said, would you be interested? And thinking, you're based in the UK. Well, absolutely, we'd be interested. I mean, what a great sort of story it is. What a great piece of land it is. So, and it was a fascinating one where the club, they wanted the input of both myself and Tom. Yes, we're partners, but it's difficult to have two people, advising on one club, especially when it comes to the egos of architects, or designers. I call myself a designer rather than an architect, and so that was a great experience, I think, going over there with Tom. Tom had been before. He made the first visit, but to look at the course in detail and to bash about ideas, between each other, it was a rare thing. We'd done it don't think we'd really done it properly like that before. So, and I think there was a certain strength that evolved from that from those debates. But a project needs just one designer ultimately to mastermind it. So Tom's taking that one on, and I think is hugely excited about what's going to happen, because it is a great piece of land, as you know. Dramatic to the extreme, the ocean crashing down onto the 6th hole, and the bridge. When I went there, the wind was howling, and incredible the surge of water between the island and the mainland. Yeah, fantastic. So no, what a great project that will be, and another one that we can really so the imagery will be stunning.
And you're hoping to start that pretty soon?
Yeah, there's been a bit of work already carried out on the first fairway, and I think that this autumn/winter, our autumn/winter will be when it really, really takes off. So
a lot going on at Sydney at the moment, obviously with Gil Hance's Gil and Jim Wagner involved, and lead Harley Cruz at Royal Sydney. I mean, when there's a big project like that going on more at the same time, are there any efficiencies to both projects in terms of machinery or?
No, I don't think. No, not. I mean, if it was the same architectural practice, same contractor, there might be some benefit. I mean, we've had quite a bit of work up in that sort of Southport area, so that can help if a contractor can move on. Even here, there's a little project at Dunluce Lodge, which hopefully the contractor here can move on and build the putting green at the lodge, for instance. So there can be benefits, but.
Did I read somewhere that Wilma Erskine might be one of the faces of that particular
Absolutely, yeah. No, Wilma's
what a legend.
Yeah, no, certainly. So she's sort of masterminding operations up there for the partners and the owners. So yeah, we're just going to have some position there looking down onto the 4th fairway, and what a structure as well.
Forgive me if I'm prying too much, but did I read also that may be being developed by the people that now own Slieve Donard and a hotel in St Andrews?
They have the Scores.
Yeah.
I think the Scores in St Andrews. Yeah. Don't know if they have the Sleeve. I don't think they have the Sleeve. I think that's a different group, but I might be wrong.
I know there's American footballers involved with both, so I think it's anyway.
Yeah.
However, my mind is full of useless information at the best of times. Finally, in terms of that trip that myself and my pal did recently, and you mentioned Dennis Crone and yourself and Tom being part of Donald Steele's practice. And obviously you created the 12 holes in the dunes that augmented Hackett's work on the estuarine plains of the Moy. I guess the experience in the seaward side of the property in Liscrone often feels like a runaway train that has not only lost control of itself, but has left the tracks altogether. A wild ride. And it was flat cam when we played it, to be fair. And I know you were back this winter. And again, it's a long time since I played. I'm just wondering about the scope of the project. I'm wondering, is it finished or is it ongoing?
Yeah, it was mainly a tea project, to be honest. There were some other minor things. The carry, for instance, of the 12th hole was there was a fairly ugly pathway going through that, and that's been removed, and the pathway to the right has been widened for the buggy traffic that they have there. So yeah, it was a club brief of focusing on certain holes and certain tees. The 14th tee was another fairly big project to improve the view through to that fairway. So yeah, it was a nice package of work. There'll be more to follow. But yeah, what a piece of dune land. I mean, it is just some of the wildest stuff. So.
I've been very fortunate. Any time I've played it, it's been pretty flat cam. I can only imagine what a little bit of the hairdryer treatment would do to golfers, and no wonder we found plenty of balls in the dunes.
Yeah. Well, I remember when Donald carried out that redesign, and then I was involved in the detail and implementing it. But that. The course was sat on the flat ground and did venture up into the dunes a little bit, but I mean, you needed serious machinery to convert that into golf holes, and again, trying to respect those beautiful big dune shapes as much as possible, and make it feel like it has just been dropped down into the dunes. So when it first opened, it was tough because the rough was so penal, because it hadn't been trampled. Like the Portrush rough has been trampled for over 100 years, and it's still pretty tough in places, but this had never been trampled. So, that caused some teething issues, and it needed to be cut back further and further. I would have to say my greens there, was early in my career and more undulating than I would be proposing, right now. So, which is an interesting, thing. There's still some good greens there, but wouldn't adjust many of them. But I think the fifth eventually we may just soften that. No, sorry, not the fifth, the fourth. We may just soften that a little bit, and perhaps the third as well. But again, it just shows how the education of a designer is an evolutionary process. I was very much influenced by the beautiful greens at Woking Golf Club, was close to my heart. That place, I was a member there for many years, and would love and maybe over inspired me, but there's some great greens there, but with some significant undulation on. So perhaps that over inspired me in the early days.
Well, again, you've teed me up for this question. So, as you know, I was at a funeral of a mutual friend of ours in Belfast last August, and happened across your mate Jonathan Shinton. He was at pains for me to assure him that whenever I finally collared you for this podcast, that I would ask you why you gave up your membership at Woking Golf Club.
Trust Shinton to get me into trouble anyway on this one, but no, a great friend, Forces partner, love him to bits. No, Shinners, that one's going to have to remain confidential, but Woking, honestly, I've got so much respect for. I think it is, clearly it was a marker in golf course architecture. Stuart Payton and John Lowe really took all their experiences at St Andrews, I think, and just brought that back down to the Heath. Inspired Tom Simpson to take up, the profession of golf course architecture from his law background. It is, some beautiful, beautiful holes there. So I'd love to go back one day.
I had the pleasure playing there last summer, and I've been plotting as to how I'm going to get back to play it again. It's one of those places that I've had daydreams about. And that I can actually remember most of the holes, having only played it once, which is obviously the mark of a good golf course.
Yeah, no, it's some amazing detail in terms of the of green shapes, and they came back and regraded all of those greens, from the old sort of, was it Willie Dunn? I think the very very sort of basic layout to begin with. So a real strong landmark in golf course architectural terms.
And then that clubhouse and the connectivity with the patio and the 14th green, and the plastic swans in the pond, keeping away or whatever they are, fiberglass swans maybe, to keep away the hooper. Sorry, they're trying to keep away the hooper swans maybe. Anyway, by the by, there's some sort of swans.
Can't remember those, but
yeah. Listen, Martin, we've hit the finishing straight with our final two questions. The first question is your bucket list. So approximately 5 courses that are currently on your bucket list and why you have them there. You can interpret the question as you wish. It might be repeat plays or indeed first timers.
Gosh, that's I mean, as I say, education is still ongoing. What's the beautiful course up in Norway? Got to go there sometime.
The Foten.
Yeah, need to go up there. I had an amazing experience last week going to Ardfinn, and I didn't play the golf course, but I was just looking at it and marveling at that. What a setting for golf. Absolutely incredible. So I think that's
Bob Harrison's opus, perhaps.
Yeah, no, I mean, what a brilliant job he did. Yeah, it was absolutely beguiling that whole. You don't see any civilization apart from one lighthouse across the Sound.
Yeah,
it's spectacular. It really is spectacular.
It's funny that the Rod Murray has a series that he shares with John Huggan out of Australia. It's for Golf Australia magazine, called The Thing About Golf, and he recorded an interview with Bob Harrison. There's a very funny story about Bob getting the call to design the golf course. I won't spoil the punchline for listeners, but check that out. I think it's probably in the first 10 or 15 episodes of the Thing About Golf podcast. If you've not heard it, sorry, I digress.
Yeah.
Number 3.
I had the good fortune to go over to Chicago to look at some courses and went to Shore Acres, which was absolutely brilliant. And where else? Old Elm as well, which was really good. But I didn't see Chicago, so I think that seems to be, something that I really must.
Well, you need to buy the new Grant Books book on Chicago. Whet your appetite and get your finger out and get over there and take a look.
Okay, and then one when I did make that trip down to Australia, which I didn't fit in, but King Island, I'd love to go to see that. That looks spectacular. And then for my final one, is as fortunate as I am to play it. On a fairly regular basis, the old course. I will never tire of playing the old course, walking around it, looking at it. I just think those undulations and the simplicity of it, the fact that it breaks all the rules, no other golf courses like it. The mother all golf courses, and no other course has been formed like it.
You've probably played it backwards, have you?
No, I haven't done that. And that was this year, wasn't it? There was another opportunity this year, but no, I haven't done that. But no, that sounds like it might make some sense of the 12th hole. It might make that seem a little bit more sensible.
It doesn't make any sense. The proper way or the usual way.
Exactly. But no, that honestly, I know it's a bit of a cliche, but I really do think it is. Anyone can play it, and just the joy you get from playing it is very special.
Again, it's one of those courses that probably inspires you to play well and wants you to play well.
Yeah, no, it does, and you can get the score going reasonably well on the front nine, as I did the other day, and then it just crucifies you on the back and whatever. So no, there's so many little experiences there. That shot across the burn at the first, that sets the whole tone for the round. If you dunk it in there, then all of a sudden everything seems lost. But then there are opportunities to get some birdies on the the 5th and the 9th and whatever. But then just that back nine is just it seems so demanding, and holding on to any score is well nigh impossible. Although people have done it, and
is it the sort of place that you're actually probably better off? So the innocence of a first play or a second play is almost better than however many times you play. So you have that mental baggage of, oh shit, I'm playing that hole again.
Well, I'm going to tell you a quick story now to finish. But a guy, Chris Kelly, American, who coordinated the construction of a course that I designed for Donald out at Primland in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. I mean, just the most amazing site at the top of a mountain. Worth checking that one out, Primland. But anyway, he never played the old course, wanted to come over. I said, yeah, of course, yeah, I'll take you around. So we had a nice lunch, and he had to borrow clubs. He didn't have any shoes. He bought a new pair of shoes. And Chris he wouldn't be angry with me for saying that, he's not the most proficient golfer and hasn't played, wasn't in practice, ready for that trip. But anyway, we went out and, slightly nervous first tee shot that he hit, a few good ones of the odd top and whatever. But we get round to 17 and he's just launched a drive over the hotel, and we're lying side by side in the fairway. I don't know, 220 yards to go or something. And he said, oh, can I borrow your 3-wood? I said, yeah, here you go. So gave him the 3-wood. He hit the most immaculate shot 10 feet from the flag. And then he said, can you take a photograph of me as I take this putt? Anyway, I messed up the photograph. He holed the putt for a 3. I turned out I'd taken a video of him right to the point where he raises his arms aloft in celebration. So he's recorded the moment, and he is now 1 under par for his play on the road hole. And I said, don't ever come back again, just retire. I'm not sure anyone could claim to be under par on the road hole, but Chris Kelly can.
Amazing. Well done, Chris. Our last question relates to book recommendations. So you might recommend 2 books, 2 golf books, obviously, for listeners to purchase that might augment their golfing libraries.
Oh, goodness. This is one I should have revised a bit more clearly. But look, anything written by Bernard Darwin, just what a great golf writer he was. I think that's, his library, just taking you back in time, is well worth perusing. I don't know. I mean, maybe I was fascinated by Tom Simpson and his Tom Simpson and Roger Weathered. We think Colt was great, Simpson was great. Who was better? Colt was more prolific, but if somehow the detail of some of Simpson's work was really pretty damn good. So so I can't remember the title of the book, but Simpson Weathered.
The Architectural Side of Golf.
Oh God, well done. Yeah.
Martin, it's been my absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks for your time this morning and last night. Continued success in all that you, Tom, and the team do. Go easy.
Thank you very much, Shane. I enjoyed it.
Just before we sign off, I have a wee little favour to ask. If you're enjoying the show, it would be great if you could give it a star rating and maybe even a written review on your particular podcast platform of choice. It really makes a difference and would be very much appreciated. Many thanks for considering the request. Until the next time, happy golfing.